I think we can go ahead if you are ready to go ahead. Great. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. Like one of the callers had just shared, January is such a great time to gather, you know, in our comfort of our workspaces and our home spaces, especially during this time, and we've all gotten kind of savvy with video conferencing, to access this community education and really planning for the upcoming year. I know one of the participants talking with Margaret just mentioned about getting a move on and planning things. I am a 53-year-old person that takes care of a senior, my mother, and there's certain things that we've planned and put into place, but now for myself, I have to start thinking about those kinds of things then too. Some things I have in place, but as we change, we also have to go back and review all of those things too. So January becomes a great time for that. I am Scott Soffert from the Glenn Hopkins Senior Living community, and we're located in the southwest corner of Hopkins, and we are a continuum care senior living community. We provide independent living, independent plus, assisted living, and memory care apartment homes and services. We have been in this area for 32 years, and I've been here actually for 14 years and worked with many seniors and families navigating a wide variety of different kinds of things, from financial stewardship to healthcare kinds of planning and stewardship, and connecting with resources. Here at the Glenn Hopkins, we have a fantastic staff, not only myself in terms of being here for 14 years, but I have co-workers, nursing assistants and nurses that have been here longer than myself. And so it provides that great continuum of care. Our goal is always to provide and make a positive difference in the lives of others every day, and we strive to do that. So I'm glad that you could be with us here today and be here with Margaret, our speaker and expert, elder law and estate attorney, till we can learn from her and ask questions as we go along. So thank you for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to Margaret.
Thank you very much, Scott. It is just an honor to partner with you and with the Glen, and I appreciate you being proactive. Your description of, you know, where you're at and taking care of your mom and concerned about her and concerned about yourself, it just describes so many of our clients and really described me when I started the firm. So but that just really resonates with me. So welcome. We are glad you joined us. You might not be surprised to hear that last March of 2020, that none of us will ever forget, internet searches for estate planning or wills or trusts jumped up 40%. And we know that was thanks to COVID. And I think COVID continues to be just a great reminder that we really don't know the future. And it is much better to be prepared so that we have smooth sailing when we go through rough seas. And because inevitably things will come up from time to time. So today I'm going to get you started on ways your will or no will, if you don't have one, might be failing you. And so I'm going to offer a couple of resources as we go. And at the end, I'm going to offer the best resource, which is a confidential complimentary session with one of our team that will be really customized to your individual situation. So we realize that we can't cover things personally in this 1 hour session here, but we want to offer you that. So we're going to give you tools that you can take for the next steps that won't cost you anything. And so, okay. So this is why I'm excited you're here. 75% of Americans do not have a complete, updated estate plan. A lot of people have a document here or there, it's out of date, or they're missing a bunch of them, or whatever. And this is the shocking part. I just read the statistic. The percentage of people with estate plans keeps going down. And also, even for seniors, it keeps going down. I don't know why, but this is partly why we do this talk, to really help people move in the direction, because this will save you time and money and hassle, and for your and it'll help your wishes come true, your desires for your hard-earned assets and your loved ones. So very glad you're here. I want to tell you, this is some of our team. We do help families protect what is most important to them. That's our whole goal. And that fits right into what we're doing today. We want to help you protect what's most important. So I have a story from my own life that I want to tell you about the importance of estate planning. I will never forget how I woke up. It was Monday, March 10th, 1997. The phone rang about 6 a.m. In those days, I had to run downstairs to the phone, landline. And on my way down, I thought, it's an emergency. It's 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. What happened? Did someone die? Are they in the hospital? Am I getting up there? What's going on? I heard the voice of my sister-in-law, Barb, when I answered the phone, and I knew something happened to my ex-husband. He was the father of our children, and I knew something happened to Joe right away. And she said, Margaret, I don't know how to tell you this. He died in a car accident last night. So Joe was 39. This just knocked the wind out of me. If you've ever gotten a call like this or a knock at the door with I'm sorry, but you know how it feels. It's devastating. And from then on, for a long time, I felt like I had an elephant on my chest, and I was in shock. He was 39. So at that point, everything changed, and I had to think about telling my kids. My son was 12. He lived to see his dad. And there's their pictures. So Benji was 12, Monica was 9. I had to wake Ben up and tell him, and he screamed. Anyway, there's quite a story that goes with it, but it was really hard. Then I walked them through this for the next weeks and months and years, actually. It's obviously a lifetime loss, but at that age, really hard, especially on Benji. Monica was a little bit young to understand it. So her grief wasn't didn't happen right then. So you can imagine there was just a hard time of walking through this process. However, the whole thing was made worse. I hate to say it. So Joe had an estate plan. He was ahead of most people, but there were 2 problems with his estate plan. First, he had his divorce attorney do it. Okay. Well, this wasn't the divorce attorney's specialty. Part of his estate plan included a prenuptial agreement, and it was supposed to be witnessed by 2 people, and it wasn't. That's a huge problem, actually. Easily corrected, but a huge problem. The second problem was he was going through a second divorce. He was separated, and his paperwork wasn't updated. So because it wasn't updated and it wasn't done by somebody who really, focuses on this area of the law, those problems caused so much trouble that there was 7 years of litigation. It went to the Minnesota Supreme Court. It was so sad. Thankfully, he had a big life insurance policy to help pay for the attorney's fees and still have money left for the kids. But that whole experience made me realize how bad it can be if you don't have a good, complete, up-to-date estate plan, and how important it is to work with somebody who really specializes in the area. So I developed the smooth sailing system to help people get over the inertia and get into the process, and we walked through it and get things complete and up to date. And we also, it's important to us to build relationships with you so that we stay in touch over the years and just check in so that you do keep it up to date and there aren't problems like what happened with Joe. So if Joe would have had the, gone through the smooth sailing system and had his estate plan up to date, it would have saved hundreds of thousands, I think, at least 100,000 in attorney's fees, even back in that day. And some of the money did not go the way he wanted, which is another bad result. So that's why I'm excited you're here today. I can't take you through the whole system, obviously, but we're going to get you started. And that's what you'll be hearing more about it as we go. Okay, so just to get a little perspective, why is estate planning important? There's different reasons. You've worked hard for your money. You want it to go where you want. You don't want to leave a mess. But here's the main thing I would say: it's your loved ones. So this is my husband and my side of the family, my kids and their spouses and grandkids, on our wedding day a little over 3 years ago. This is who I think about when I think about having my ducks in a row, that I don't want to leave them a mess. I really want things to go well for them. I want my money to help them, not hurt them. So when you feel like, oh, I just don't feel like it, I get it. Everybody gets it. Remember, this is a really loving thing to do for your family. It is really a gift for them. So that might help you keep moving forward. So here's a little bit about me. And I am uniquely qualified. I already told you the story about Joe's estate. I've worked with my dad, died of dementia January 19. I had, my mom is still alive, living in independent living, but so isolated because of COVID. It's sad. Working together with my siblings on all of those things. I am also part of a blended family, as you heard, and so there's special estate planning issues with that. I've lived a lot of what my clients go through. So I can relate, and I really love to come alongside, and so does our whole team, and help you walk through what can be really complicated and overwhelming. But if you're proactive and plan ahead, it can be a lot better. So, so not only my training and my skills and my experience, but even my life experience, I think really helps. So this next slide is a bunch of my credentials. Started the firm in 2013. We are the second year in a row. We're one of the fastest growing law firms in America. We were 16th in 2019, 17th in 2020. So we're growing fast because we do a good job in helping people, and we are so happy to help more people every year. And there's a lot of need. You're not alone. So next, we can just go on. You can always read that stuff. But I want to give you a little roadmap of where we're going. So first of all, I'm going to tell you 3 ways your will might be failing you. Then I'm going to have a specific time for questions. Now I might answer them as we go if I see them come through the chat. But most often it works best to do them right there at the end. So please be patient about that. And then again, if you, maybe there's personal questions you don't want to ask, or it's more than we can get into today, we're going to offer the free resources, including that life and legacy session that's complimentary and confidential, and a couple other resources you can do for free. And then I have a closing story. So that's it. Let's dive in. First of all, I don't know if you guys can raise your hand. How many of you think a will avoids probate? Or have you heard that a will avoids probate? This is where I wish I could see you. Or we were in a room together. But anyway, for the time being, okay, sorry, this is just a technical. A lot of people think this. The truth is wills are designed for probate. Sometimes you can avoid probate with a will, and depending on your circumstances and your wishes, you know, sometimes with some people it's easier than others. Definitely, wills don't avoid probate. They're designed for probate. So in Minnesota, some of the basic reasons why it might go through probate, if you have more than $75,000 going through the will, that's a probate. If you're transferring any real estate through the will, that's an automatic probate. If you have minor children who are inheriting, it's often a probate, like maybe about half the time, depends on the county mostly. So as you can see, a lot of people would fall in the category that they would have a probate unless they had a really good estate plan. So what is probate? I had a client ask me this today. You've all heard you can't take it with you, right? However, after you die, there will still be assets in your name. How are we going to get them in someone else's name? It's probate. It's the court process used to transfer the assets according to what your will says, or if you don't have a will, you know, the law decides for you where your money goes. That's all it is. The court process to move assets out of the decedent's name into the right people's name. The pros and cons of a will is, this is another frequent question we get. Because if you're doing an estate plan, you have 2 basic choices. You can do a will-based plan or a trust, living or revocable trust-based plan. The pros and cons of a will are, most of the time, the assets will go to the right people. Okay, sometimes they don't. And it's less expensive. It's less work and it's less expensive right now. The cons is probate is likely. Depending on your personal situation in that life and legacy session, we can kind of give you a better idea if you're a good candidate to avoid probate maybe, or most of our clients are not great candidates for avoiding probate. But the second is probate. Plan on it costing at least $5,000 probably. It's time-consuming hassles. People do not like the hassle. It's public. People do not like that part either. We have all the time family members saying, I wished my loved one had a trust. Or when we had kids in meetings with parents and the parents are trying to decide between the will and the trust, we usually see the kids going, would you please do the trust? Like, I want less work. So those are the things people don't like about probate. And a transfer on death deed doesn't always work. I just wanted to highlight this. So if you have a house and you just want to go with the will, but you want to try to avoid probate, let's say you have 2 kids, you could say, when the second spouse dies, it will go to the 2 kids, somewhat automatically. Tods don't work if, let's say, one of your children predeceases you, and then the house goes to their spouse, and maybe they're going through divorce, or maybe you wanted it to go to the grandkids. If people die out of order or certain things happen, there can be problems with them. So these sometimes work well. They don't always work well. So that's just something to be careful about. Then I want to go over the pros and cons of a trust. So the pros of a trust is they avoid probate. They are designed to avoid probate. One of the best things about them. So they're private. They work great if you lose capacity before you die. They are much better than a power of attorney. Power of attorneys are essential. However, financial institutions can give you a hard time about them, and they are not as flexible as a trust. So they are ideal if you lose capacity before you die, which most of us will. The assets will go where you want. You're not going to have to worry about a transfer on death deed working or having the beneficiary designation just right. If you have a taxable estate, it will minimize taxes. Right now in Minnesota, that's a $3 million estate. So you definitely, especially if you're married, would want to do a trust if you have a taxable estate. And lastly, it protects from creditors, divorce, bad financial decisions. If you're leaving money for people who have a special need or who have or develop a special need or who develop a problem with money or they're going through divorce or any number of things, the assets are protected. So that's definite plus depending on your situation. The cons, you can see there's less cons. It's costs more and it takes a little more time to move assets into the trust. However, so with the will, you pay more, you pay less now, more later. With the trust, you pay more now, less later. You pay less in the long run with the trust. I forgot to say there's a little basket there because a trust is like a basket that you put your assets in and the trust outlives you. That's why there's not a probate because it doesn't die. And the assets are handled by the trustee, which is normally you, as long as you can do it, according to the terms of the trust that we put in there. And we always draft all our documents to provide for as many contingencies as we can to help the documents last as long as they can. So those are the basic pros and cons of the trust. And again, in that life and legacy session, we can learn more about you and we can tailor those to you because it really can make a difference in your particular situation where the weight is. Now, here's an action step. This is the end of the first issue, which is wills don't avoid probate. And so I'm going to give you a tip of something you can do to just start getting things together for your loved ones, okay? We're going to send you an email of a navigation plan for you to complete. We give this to all of our clients at the signing of their documents. And it's optional. It's about 6 pages long, but double-sided. It's something for you to put in a lot of good information, like who is your healthcare directive? Who's your attorney? Where to find your documents? What about your funeral? Different practical things that will, if you complete this, it will make it much easier for your loved ones and smoother. It'll help you pull together your thoughts all in one place too. So we'll send you that. If you do that and make it available to your loved ones, that would be great. That would definitely be a win. So the next question we have, we have a quote, that's right. So We are getting great testimonials from our clients all the time, and it really is so heartwarming for us because we know we're adding value, but it's so great when our clients understand that as well. And so this estate planning client really found us friendly, found the process easy to navigate, which is the whole goal. And they were gonna do their will online. I just don't recommend that, you guys, for anybody, but they're glad they went with us because they really have the peace of mind to know that it was worth it. So that's the kind of experience that we would like you to have and that our clients typically have, that they're glad they went through the process. And normally they find it went easier than they thought. So the next point is that, let's say your will is perfectly good on paper. Your assets still might not go where you want. Now, I've talked about this a little bit, but I'll dive into it a little more. I had a client, he had one brother and then his dad. And his dad had a will. And the will said 50-50 to each son. Then he put one son on the savings account and the other son, my client, was on the checking account. Okay. So dad died and they each had like $10,000 or something. It wasn't a lot in the accounts, 10 or 15,000. And so, but the brother was in charge, not my client. The brother was called personal representative. And so he paid all the bills out of the checking account. So there was nothing really left in the checking account. There was $2,000 in the end. So what happened is the money didn't go through the will, because what the dad did was he had my client on the checking account, so that just went to him. And then the savings account went to his brother, and nothing really went through the will. And I do not think this was the father's wishes at all. However, my client had the option of fighting it in court, and he considered that, but there wasn't a lot of money, and he already felt like he'd never talk to his brother again, sadly. And so I negotiated for him to get a few more $1,000 extra, and then they'll never speak again. So very sad results, but the will was right, 50-50. The money did not go 50-50. So how your assets are titled and your beneficiaries can undermine your plan. And so let's talk a little bit more about that. This is actually a pretty common problem that I see. Here's another story. The four sisters. So two sisters came in and hired us because their mom had died. And really tragically, one sister died about 2 months before mom, and one died about a month after mom. Okay. She had a CD at a large local bank. Actually, it's a national bank. And the CD said, it was like $100,000, I think. This goes to my 4 daughters in equal shares per stirpies, which is legal talk for if one of my daughters dies before me, her 25% goes to her kids. However, in the fine print of the certificate of deposit at this bank, it said, if any beneficiaries predecease you, their share lapses. Okay. So even though her beneficiary designation was perfectly correct, it is exactly how I would have drafted it for her. Because she had a will and she didn't have a trust, so she had to use the beneficiary designation. She was trying to avoid probate. So, but unbeknownst to any of us, in the fine print of this CD at the bank, it said, daughter who died first is X'd out. So instead of her kids getting 1/4, the other 3 sisters divided up 30%. And the one who died, or 33% each, the one who died after her, her kids did get their share and the other one didn't. Not what she wanted. And she didn't do anything wrong. But relying on that trust and the beneficiary designation created a problem. So those are 2 examples of that. So let me just go over how assets transfer when you die. Like we said, you can't take it with you. And so there's 4 ways assets transfer mainly. The first one is beneficiary designations, like we just talked about. Sometimes they work great, but there are times when they don't. Titling of assets. So you could have somebody like your spouse is usually joint on your house, sometimes a kid, something like that. The next way is not so automatic, will, and then you can bring up the next one, Gabrielle, the revocable trust. Both of those is where money's going through the will or trust, and someone, either the personal representative or the trustee, is going to put on their trustee or PR hat And they're going to transfer the money according to what the will and the trust says. So those are the 4 ways that it goes. So you can see that sometimes money is passing outside the will and trust by beneficiary designation and titling of assets. So this is what I want you to remember, the takeaways that I want you to remember from this section. First, the beneficiaries and the joint owners both trump the will. So you want to make sure what we do with our smooth sailing system, not only we get your documents right, but we make sure your assets are right, the beneficiaries and the titling, because we want them to work together. We don't want the assets, to trump the will. So that is a really important point. And so you definitely want an estate attorney who's going to help you get that right. So here's another action step for this second one, which is, your assets can undermine your plan. That's the second big problem. Complete the asset summary from Safe Harbor Estate Law. We prepare this for all our clients, but you can get started on your own. We're going to send you this also, and you can just start keeping track of it. This is a job, and it's really important to know what all your assets are. How they're titled, how much money is in there right now, who's the beneficiary. Super helpful for your loved ones if you want to start pulling that together. And it can be helpful for you. Any attorney you talk to would want this information. So this would be another good use of your time. So we have another quote here from a client, estate planning client, who found our information understandable and helpful as they think through the details. And granted, there's some details, but we try to walk you through them. We were not condescending in any way and don't overwhelm you. We understand this can be overwhelming, but we do our best to relieve the overwhelm instead of add to it. So delightful to work with all of these people. The third thing I want you to know is wills do nothing for incapacity. Wills don't come into effect until you pass away. So like I said, most of us will probably lose capacity before we die. That's just the data. It could be temporary or it could be permanent. And so we need to do something else for that time period before we pass away. If you guys have an idea what documents that might be, you can put them in the chat. Let me just check the cat. Oh, right. Oh yeah, right. Okay, great. I see I'm getting some high-end, sophisticated questions in the chat, which is super. All right, just wanted to make sure there was nothing that needed to be addressed right away. So again, we're talking about the time period before you pass away. If making your own healthcare decisions and having your money handled the way you want, your finances is important to you, you do want to listen to this. It's important. And so what we want to do is have paperwork done ahead of time so things go smoothly for your loved ones and they do what you want, and you can avoid going to court and spend thousands of dollars on a big stressful situation and still possibly not even getting what you want. There's a big difference between having the papers in place and not having them in place. So I'll take you back to a client I had really about 7 years ago. He called. He wasn't this old. They were in their early 60s, and she got diagnosed with early onset dementia about a year before. And so Pete called, and he's like, oh, he was still working. He said, I've been meeting all year to get our estate plan in order, but there's been so much going on with her illness, and now she took a turn for the worse, and we just completed a battery of tests, and it's confirmed she's just nosedived in her capacity. I'm afraid she can't sign documents anymore. I said, well, I hope she can. We'll do everything we can to work with her to try to get them signed, because if we have to go to court, it's going to cost thousands of dollars and so forth. So we made an appointment. And then before the appointment, Pete called and said, I can't make Andrea come in because those tests the doctors gave were so stressful. I can't stress her out again. And I assured him, oh no, she won't even know I'm testing her. It'll just be a conversation. It's not like the doctor at all. And as I recall, though, he did come in alone first because he was so worried. But he saw that it was fine, and she came in. And if you fast forward a few weeks, they were both in our office, signed all the papers, everything got taken care of. Their daughter was there. I got to meet her. Then he retired. They moved up to the cabin, and he took care of her till she passed away. And after she passed away, things went smoothly. So everything ended up fine for them. And I'm so glad, because he didn't wait too long. If he had, we would have had to go to court, and I would have had to put her on the witness stand, which would have been way worse than the doctor's test, I think. So it was a very good result. And the difference is, he picked up the phone and called. Even though he was beating himself up, he was kind of feeling ashamed he didn't call a year before. But everybody knows they need to have their state plan in order. And once you're over 50, I think you start to feel like, I don't really think I have excuses. I think I'm going to probably not live forever, and I probably should do something. But he overcame that and called and started doing the smooth sailing system. So for everybody who goes through our smooth sailing system, we provide thorough documents for incapacity planning, it's called, in case you lose capacity. So there's 3 main documents. 2 I know you know of. The healthcare directive is number 1. You're going to appoint a person with backups. I recommend at least 2 backups for any of these. And you're going to appoint them to make decisions if you can't. And second, you're going to give some direction about what you want. More general direction at this point. And this is really important. There was a law change in August 2016 in Minnesota. If the doctor's prescribing any meds that affect your mental health, any kind of treatment. Maybe my dad, when he had Alzheimer's, he got anxious, and he was never anxious before. I think it was maybe the meds he was on or something. And so we had to give him anti-anxiety meds. That's an example. Now, if you want your agent to be able to adjust meds or add to meds or anything that affects your mental health, you have to have specific language in there, and you have to have it witnessed by 2 witnesses. So of all the free healthcare directives out there, I have not seen a single one with this language in, and it's really important. All of our clients have wanted it so far. So heads up, there was a change in the law in healthcare directive in 2016 that you probably want in your document. The next document you've probably heard of is power of attorney. Here you're going to appoint a person and backups to handle your money and your legal information. So this is super important. If you don't have the healthcare directive and power of attorney, you have to go to court and get a guardianship conservator appointed. And it is, like I said, I would say starting at $5,000. And they have to make reports to the court. They have to discharge when they're done. It's not a fun process. It's doable. We can help you with it, but we'd rather help you prevent it. The third document that I don't know what I'd give you for a prize if anybody's already heard of this, but I'd be very impressed. Digital asset authorization. Again, started in 2016. The RUFADA Act was sweeping the country. It's the Revised Uniform Fiduciary Digital Access Act. So this means that the people you're appointing in your power of attorney, your will, and your trust, and your healthcare directive, they're called fiduciaries because they have to act in your best interest. This allows them to access things online, which is really important. Like even maybe something's on your computer, maybe you're getting bills on there, your financial statements, and et cetera. Really important. So we include that in our incapacity plans, and that's another important piece that a lot of people don't have. So that's it. Your will does not cover this stuff for incapacity planning, but these 3 documents will. Really important to have them all. So especially, I just have to say, especially in the era of COVID, because now we have people calling saying, oh, my mom never got her paperwork together, and now she's in the hospital and she's going to a nursing home, and how do we get in, and how does the attorney talk to them, and it's more complicated for sure. Definitely would be good to get this paperwork done ahead of time, especially if you have anybody who, none of us knows the future, but sometimes when people are older or more infirm, we know there's limited time. It's really important to try to act while you can. So, this is somebody, a client's daughter, her mom moved to Florida. This happens a lot too. And we helped her and her mom to get everything in order up here. And she didn't feel like a typical lawyer's office. Another one of my favorite comments, felt like we were with friends and they wanted to make sure we had everything done. And this woman passed away now, and it's gone smoothly. So next, how do you move from being stressed out? You feel stressed out. Maybe I stress you out more from before. Sometimes people get more overwhelmed by my talk, but I mainly want you to kind of take away the net things and at least just take a next step. So how do you move from being stressed out to having your ducks in a row? So I already told you about the free resources. So we are sending you that asset summary that you can fill in about your assets, and then also your that navigation plan. Both of those are really great, important steps. Won't cost you anything but some time. The life and legacy session, same thing. Won't cost you anything but some time. So we offer this for you to sit down with Dawn Thompson. She is our client relations manager. Here she is. So, and she does these all the time. You can do it over Zoom. You could do it in person. Our office is near 35E and 694 in St. Paul. But of course, especially with COVID now, we're serving all of Minnesota and Wisconsin because we can do things remotely. So we're happy to do it by Zoom. So then Dawn will listen to you. She wants to understand your goals. She wants to find out, you know, like, what's your situation, your family, your finances, what are the details that, so we can understand better. Then she can identify gaps in your plan. She can educate you on your options. She can go over this will and trust thing in a more personal way with you to help you sort it out. And she can go over costs and a little bit more about the process and answer any questions. So that's our goal, that you would, we want to invest that time in you so you're educated and equipped to make the best decision for you. And so if you would like to do that, you can actually sign up today. We forgot to talk about this. What's the best way for them to sign up? Is it right in here? Okay, Gabrielle, can you put your camera on? Okay. But I want you to see her. She's actually in my office with me. So Gabrielle, you can go back to your slide. That's okay. Okay, Gabrielle, she's right here. There she is. She is the first call. When people first call in, she's the first person that kind of get the basic information, make sure that we can help you, and we save your time and our time and set you up with the life and legacy session with Dawn. And so shortly after the presentation, she's going to send you an email with the free resources and a link to sign up with Dawn. If you want to do it right now, you can go to safeharbororestatelaw.com/schedule. It's also there. The life and legacy session is what you want. That's the longer session. It's like an hour. If you want to schedule right away, you can chat, put it in chat, call us. Well, that's what I told you. If you go to safeharbororestatelaw.com/schedule, then you pick life and legacy session. So the last thing I want to do is tell you another story. I'll get to your question, Carmel, in just a minute, couple minutes. This yellow canoe is just like the one my family had when we were growing up. I say my parents were the salt of the earth. They had 8 kids. They sent us all to Catholic schools. My dad made like $30,000 a year working at Ham's Brewery, walked to work. And they had this tent trailer they got, and this yellow canoe. And we traveled all over the country. Really, really had a blessed life. Not perfect, but blessed. So we were camping. I think it was at Lake Rebecca in Minneapolis. And my sister Kathy, who's 18 months older than I, went canoeing. And we felt pretty capable. I had even won the canoeing badge at COF camp one year. And so, we were used to canoeing. So we took off across this lake, and it was all wetland around because it's like nature area. And we were doing so well, we said, let's go all the way. So we went all the way across this lake. And as we turned around, we realized, the wind was at our backs. Now it's not. Now we're heading into the wind. Not only that, but a storm was coming up fast. So we saw the clouds moving in. It was getting really windy. So everything changed. We were struggling to keep it straight, and it was, going to the side. And I was afraid it was going to tip over because I still don't know how to swim, folks. I've tried. I've had lessons. My mom tried. But so I always wear a life jacket. But like my nightmare would be dumping over in this cold lake and having to upright the canoe. And so it was scary for me. Then I looked back at my sister, who's older. So she's driving, she's in the driver's seat back there. And I could tell she was scared. So let me ask you, what happens in families when they're stressed and they're confused and they're scared? We started arguing. So that made it worse. So we're arguing and just really worried about getting over there. And I could just feel it. My chest was tight. My muscles were really tense. And we just had our eye on that dock. And we made it before the storm like really broke wide open and we didn't dump over. I was so relieved. So I just want you to know that I want your experience and your family's experience with the storms that come up in life to be more like our trip in the first place across the lake. That was pretty smooth, and not like the one behind where we weren't prepared. We weren't anticipating the storm. We probably went further than we should have without looking at the weather. We didn't really pay attention. And being proactive can really make a difference. To have more smooth sailing in the storms of life and have support and help along the way. And that's what we would be honored to be for you. So I am honored that you are here today. I hope that you found some value in this. We would love feedback you have about what was valuable or how we could improve, because we do these talks regularly. Or if you have an idea of where we could speak, we would like to hear that as well. So thank you again. Thank you again, Scott and the Glenn, for sponsoring this. And please go ahead and schedule the Life and Legacy session either in the chat or by calling us, by responding to the email, by going to the website, anyhow you want. We'd love to give you that more custom look at everything. Thank you, everybody, for being here. You can keep asking questions if you want, and you're certainly released if you're done.
Thank you very much, Margaret. And thank you so much for the tool that you'll be sending. I love those little organizational tools that helps me to just organize thoughts as well as the action steps that I need to take. That will be great. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you, everyone. And I know that there's a couple of questions. We will be having someone ask a question about long-term care. Actually, next week on January 28th at 1 o'clock, Margaret is going to join us again, and we're going to talk about protecting assets as well as your investments in terms of planning for long-term care. So I'm hoping that you'll be able to join us for that, and we can register you if you are not registered yet for that webinar, which is always a one that people have many questions about then too. So thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon, and thank you, Margaret.
You're welcome. Thanks. I forgot I got to answer Carmel's question.
Oh, okay.
She said, I was given one passcode in my letter from Scott informing me there would be a webinar and another code when I access Zoom on the computer. Which one should I have used? I'm not sure. And she heard a strange noise, which I don't know what the strange noise, if others are hearing that or not.
What I can do, Margaret and Carmel, I will follow up with you, Carmel, and I'll give you a phone call and we'll double check what those access codes were then, and just making sure that you got the correct ones then.
Look at a recording too, right? And then you'll get a recording by email. You could listen to that and see, hopefully that will give you better sound. And you can maybe fast forward to a certain section if there was something you really wanted to hear.
There's some feedback on Margaret's end. Well, now that I'm in the office with you. There we go. She muted herself. Okay, so she has, it's just with her mic next to her computer. So if you heard a little feedback, that's probably from her, but I don't know if there was a huge weird noise that I heard. But
I'm sorry about that. Sometimes it sounds like we're at the bottom of the sea. Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thank you very much.
Bye. Hope it added value for you. Bye. See you next week, Scott. And
thank you.
See the others. Bye.